If you're looking to level up your home cinema and create an impressive movie watching experience at home, then you're probably thinking about getting a projector, or at least upgrading the one that you currently have. Well, BenQ's W5800 has been designed to tick all of the boxes for serious home cinema enthusiasts, but can it deliver? Hey guys, Louis here from Smart Home Sounds, and I've got a really exciting one for you all today. Now, if you're a fan of the channel, then you know that we cover all kinds of home cinema products at various price points, and this review is for those of you who are ready to invest in a premium setup. Now, this is the BenQ W5800, a laser projector which comes in at £4,599, or for those in the US, $5,999. Now, BenQ are known for offering projectors across a range of budgets, and they've sent us this model to test out in our cinema room. So the big question is, can it convince us to swap out our trusty Sony 590 ES projector? Now that one's about 3 years old now, so we're really interested to see just how well this new projector from BenQ can compare. Now, full transparency, I am a little bit of a Sony projector fanboy, but I'm going to go into this with an open mind. So with that being said, there is plenty to dive into. So let's kick off with some of the key features that you need to know about the W5800. Now there's a lot of clever technology packed into this projector. At the center is a 0.47 DMD chip and blue laser light source, which together deliver up to 2,600 lumens. And BenQ have said that you can expect 20,000 hours of laser lifetime out of this projector. So bulb replacements won't be a worry with this one. The lens on this projector is pretty high end and is a 14 element 7 group lens made of glass, not plastic, which should boost sharpness and give us better details to provide a nice crisp image, even when pushed to larger screen sizes. Now, speaking of screen sizes, this can throw an image up to a 200-inch screen. Now, in terms of resolution, the W5800 offers a native 1080p resolution, but it can produce a UHD 4K image, as that DMD chip can quadruple the pixels to give 4K clarity with 8.3 million pixels. So again, really excited to see how this plays out in our testing. Now, if there's one thing that this projector does well, it's color. Now, I'll share more on that in my testing shortly, but in terms of spec, BenQ's cinematic color technology covers 100% of the DCI-P3 color gamut, which is the industry standard for digital cinema. You'll also get 100% Rec. 709 color space, so the colors are vibrant but accurate. There's also some clever picture enhancements with this projector, such as HDR Pro, local contrast enhancer, and dynamic black technology. Now, these all work together to enhance the picture quality and improve the brightness and the contrast. If you're into HDR content, then we can tick off support for HDR10, HLG, and HDR10 Plus formats. HDR10 Plus gives scene-by-scene optimization, ensuring that each frame looks as good as it can. Now, the W5800 also has 11 levels of color temperature tuning, so you can fine-tune the colors depending on your lighting conditions and personal preferences. And finally, we can check off 3D compatibility if that's on your wish list, and you can enjoy 3D gaming or movies on this projector. It is, however, also worth noting that Dolby Vision is not supported. We also get a really solid selection of connections to make setting up your home cinema system nice and easy. First up, we have dual HDMI 2.0 B ports, which support HDCP 2.2 and can handle a 4K 60Hz signal, so you can easily connect your 4K devices and get high quality video playback. Next, we have two USB Type A ports offering 5V 2.0 amps / 1.5 amps of power output, so you can plug in a USB stick or external hard drive directly into the projector to play media. There's also a USB Type B port for system updates if needed. For audio, we have eARC, which passes through 7.1 channel surround sound and Dolby Atmos audio, which is important as there are no built-in speakers with this projector. There's also an SPDIF output for audio, so you can connect up an external sound system or even connect headphones if you wanted to. Plus, the projector has RS-232 and a LAN port here for system integration if you need them. So lots of connectivity, as you can see, and you can easily integrate a Blu-ray player, speakers, game console, or streaming device. We've got an Anthem MRX 1120 amp hooked up to ours. While I would say that this projector excels in connectivity for home cinema, it does fall a little bit short for gaming. The HDMI ports support 4K at 60Hz in HDR and 120Hz in 1080p, but there's no support for VRR or a low input lag mode, which means that you might notice a bit of lag when gaming, especially first-person shooter games. Now, for my personal use case, I prefer gaming on a TV or monitor, so I wouldn't be using this setup for gaming, though I think it would be good for casual gaming. But if you're a serious gamer and looking for something which can be used for both movies and gaming, then that's something worth bearing in mind. BenQ do actually offer a range of gaming projectors and other entertainment projectors, which you could check out too. Now, this projector is nice and tucked away in our space, but I do want to take a quick look at the design, as this model seems a good step forward from the previous BenQ projectors that we've seen. It certainly has a premium feel to it, and if I'm honest, it's better than I was expecting, with these curved corners and gold edges around the lens recess. It's also worth noting that it comes in at 10.5 kilos. The remote is also really well made, one of the nicer remotes that I've come across actually, and it's backlit, which is key for me in a dark cinema room. A highlight for me is just how easy it is to flick between the picture modes on the remote. It is on the slightly larger side though. Now, we've also got a few design elements to really help keep the noise to a minimum level with this projector. I think they said as low as 27 to 30 decibels, and it draws in cool air through the front here and sends hot air out of the sides. All in all, I'm pleasantly surprised by the more premium look and feel, though really that should be expected at this sort of price point. Getting this one set up was also nice and straightforward. Projectors can typically be a little bit of a pain to set up, but this one, in all honesty, didn't take too long at all to get it right. There's lots of motion zoom, and it has a great motorized lens feature, which can be controlled with the remote. This projector has a throw ratio of 1.52 to 2.45, so suitable for screens from 80-inch up to 200-inch. Now, our screen is 16:9, 138 inches for context. There's also a fully motorized lens shift with vertical ±50% and horizontal ±21% adjustments to give even more flexibility. Okay, on to the picture quality then, the best part. Now, I've been testing this one out over the past few weeks, and I've been comparing it with our Sony projector. So for context, we had the Sony VPL590 ES in here, which is a few years old now. It is a lamp-based projector and can only go up to 1,800 lumens, but it's a good test for me to see if I want to swap it out. The first thing that jumped out at me once I got the BenQ W5800 set up was, number one, wow, this is bright. Number two, the colors are excellent. Number three, the details are great. And number four, the blacks aren't the best, but stay with me on this one. So not bad for a first impression, but let's dive a little bit deeper. 2,600 lumens is a respectable number, but I wasn't sure I would be blown away by the step up in brightness. But in real world testing, this is plenty bright enough, especially in our dark cinema room, and I think it would manage really well in a fairly bright space too. SDR content in bright mode hit those highest brightness levels, but HDR content also delivered very impressive brightness as well. Specs wise, this wows when it comes to color reproduction with the 100% DCI-P3 wide color gamut, and that definitely translates in real world viewing. The out of the box colors are very good. They're punchy and vibrant, but they don't push it too far and still feel true to life and accurate. It's not the kind of vivid that you get with vivid mode on TV, where certain hues are over-exaggerated. The details are super impressive on this projector, and it's clear that the lens is doing its job well. If we take a look at some comparisons versus the Sony projector, to state the obvious, the main difference that jumps out at you is the brightness, and with that, the vibrancy of colour. I will say, when watching the Sony before, I wouldn't have described this as a notably dark image, but the BenQ is a lot more saturated and offers an overall brighter picture with brighter highlights. This clip here from the film Furiosa shows the difference in the greens in the leaves. You could say that the leaves look more natural on the Sony, but have more of a pop on the BenQ. Skin tones are also worth highlighting. While the picture isn't as bright, I do feel like the skin tones are a bit more accurate on the Sony, but there will be some of you watching who prefer the vibrancy on the BenQ. It's a conversation of how true to life you like your picture to be. Again, with this clip in Mission Impossible, the skin tones are a key difference here. Now, which you prefer will be down to personal preference, whether you sway more towards accuracy or like a bright, vivid picture like we get on the BenQ. Flicking over to this shot in Top Gun Maverick, another Tom Cruise classic, you can see again the brighter highlights, particularly in the sweat on his face, which help draw out more of the details in the forehead and the cheek here. This is also a good shot for showing the differences in the blacks, where the background behind him is a pure deep black on the Sony, giving good contrast, whereas on the BenQ here, you can see it's a lighter black, edging into grey. Now, one area that this type of projector can struggle in is in the blacks and therefore the contrast. Now, I do think struggle is maybe a little bit too harsh. The blacks and contrast are good, but out of the box, they are just a little bit too greyish for me, especially with HDR movies, and I felt like I wanted them to be deeper. To tweak things like this can get complicated with other projectors, but I was surprised just how easily I could make some more positive changes on this one. So firstly, I turned on the dynamic dimming, which helped to improve the overall contrast. I also brought down the HDR brightness setting, which naturally did sacrifice some of that impressive brightness, but the trade-off for better blacks is worth it for me in my space, and the brightness is still great. I also activated the dynamic black feature too, and all of that has given me an overall picture that I'm really happy with. Oh, and it's also worth noting though that the blacks are pretty good out of the box for SDR content, so no major tweaks needed there for me. I've also tested this W5800 out a lot for motion handling too. The recent Autumn International Rugby was a great excuse to do some testing in this area. Now overall, I would say that the motion handling is quite good. There's no noticeable judder, but you can turn on MEMC, which is motion estimation, motion compensation, to make it even better. And there's no picture downside that I've experienced from turning that on in my testing. Comparing the two projectors, I do think that there's a different feel from a lamp to a laser, with the step up in punch being undeniable. Do you lose some of that cinematic impact? I don't know that you do. There are definitely aspects that I prefer with the BenQ over the Sony. Brightness, colours and vibrancy for sure. And as someone who has always had a preference for Sony projectors, then I do think this is a very, very good effort from BenQ. For me personally, I think I got the most out of this projector with a bit of tweaking. Now it does actually arrive calibrated, and this very official looking envelope that comes with the projector gives an individual factory calibration report, showing it is ISF CCC certified and has been calibrated to a delta E of less than 2. Now, if you're not sure what I'm referring to, this envelope essentially lets you know that it's been professionally calibrated to meet industry standards, and that does show, as out-of-the-box performance is very good. For me, this is a projector that knows exactly where it wants to sit in the world, within a dedicated home cinema space. And in that space, it shines and it ticks a lot of boxes, from connectivity to build quality to an impressive picture quality. Now, yes, there are projectors out there which could deliver better black levels, but I don't think they'd compete with the brightness and vibrancy that we get with this projector. Which you'd rather prioritize will of course come down to your personal preferences. At this price point, it's taken on some seriously tough competition, but I do think you get a great performance for the price. So big question then, am I swapping out my current Sony projector for the W5800? Well, I think the answer is yes. There's enough here for me to want to swap this one out. Now, if I was coming in cold, there are a lot of good projectors out there in the sub £5,000 price bracket, but the BenQ is definitely one to be on your shortlist, as I don't think you'll be disappointed at all. But as always, over to you guys. Let me know your thoughts on the BenQ W5800 down in the comments below. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll catch all of you in the next video.